Hi there, my name's Jane Anderson. I'm a strategic communications expert, and today I want to share with you my thoughts around LinkedIn pods. It's by far one of the most common questions I'm being asked at the moment, and so I thought I'd take the opportunity to do a bit of a walkthrough and just to help you to understand a little bit about pods and even this concept regardless of platform, and so that you can make a decision about whether this is the right thing for you in your practice or not right now. So I had a call recently from someone. They called me last week. It was off the back of one of our content creation boot camps, and she said, I get all this content, I can see why I'm putting all this up, but one of the questions I've got now is, should I be in this pod that I'm in? And she said, I don't know. I've been in this pod for a while. It's chewing up a huge amount of my time. There's a few of us in there, but every day I have to make sure I go in, I have to comment on everything, and then I have to share everything. And she said, I'm just not sure that it's getting a return. And I just wondered what your opinion was, because if you think I should do it, I'll keep doing it, but I'm just not sure that it's really worth my time. And so I said, you know what? It's so good that you're questioning it, because I think we have to question everything. We have to question where we're spending our time. And when you're an expert, there's only one of you. So you have to be really mindful of where you're spending it. So there were two questions I asked her. Number one was, how many sales have you had as a result? And she said, yeah, none. I said, okay. And the second question is when was the last time you contacted one of your top 150 clients? Now, for those who work with me, you know what that means. If this is new to you, I talk a lot about the top 150 clients in your practice. Even if you haven't got to 150, it's essentially the group of people who have bought from you in the past. And we focus on them because they've helped you build your practice. And so your job is to make sure you keep helping them. So I asked her, when was the last time you reached out to one of your 150s? And she said, yeah, I haven't. And I said, okay. So now we've got to we said, okay, well, then I looked at this model with her, and this is the model that I teach. It's called, it's as a result of the influencer indicator. You can go on and do the questionnaire, but this is almost marketing 101, and it's designed to help you to identify where you getting the return in your marketing activities. So let's have a look, and then we'll look at where do pods sit so that you can make a decision. The first question is that when you're out marketing to people, we've got to look at and try and work out, well, who are the people out there we've got people out there who know you, and we've got people out there who don't know you. We've got people out there who have no idea what they want, and we've got people out there that do know what they want. So we're always working in one of these four quadrants. So if you're doing Facebook ads, you're usually, unless you're working with, if you're targeting an audience to your ideal client, then you're bottom left. If you're working with know you, people out there know you, they know what they want. So these are, your friends or clients that you've had. But let's walk through each one so we're clear. The first one, so people out there who know you and know what they want. So these people, I call them direct contact. So in other words, these are people in your database, and they have typically either been at an event and they're receiving your newsletter every week. They have been in a workshop. Maybe you spoke to these people at a conference and they came onto your list. Your job is to know the people who are on this list inside out, back to front. And because for a lot of the people on here, they've actually bought from you before. This group could make up, 5,000 people in your database, but there may only be 20 or 10 or maybe 5, or maybe there's 150 who have bought from you before. So and if they need help, what they're going to do is just ring you, right? Oh, I know you and I know what you do and I know how you can help me. I'm just going to ring for your help. Equally, if you want to be able to build your pipeline, the question is where have you looked after people the most? Where have you nurtured? And is this quadrant? So this would be where you would be doing your sales calls, your opening, looking at the data that's in your from your newsletters going out, and having a good look at the feedback of what's coming through. So this next quadrant down here, we've got people out there who know what they want, and people out there who don't know you. So in other words, these are people who are trying to find someone with your area of expertise, but they just don't know who to ask, or they don't know who to trust. So in other words, they will go to their colleagues, they will go to their friends in the industry. So for example, if they said, who would you recommend as a leadership expert? Well, they would probably possibly ask they might go into a forum and ask their group of HR practitioners or L&D practitioners. If they're not sure, then they would do a Google search. So they'd be typing in leadership expert Sydney. So that part fits in there. Bottom left here, let's have a look. So there are people out there who don't know what they want and they don't know you. So this quadrant is all about awareness. So in your case, your job is to get out in front of people who have no idea who you are. They haven't realized that they've got a problem, because otherwise they'd be out searching for help with it. And they don't know you. So speaking fits into this quadrant. If you're out speaking at conferences and events, other people's audiences. So in other words, you don't know them, they don't know you. Reach out campaigns sit in here. So if you said, I want to reach out to every CEO in the Fortune 100s, then your job is awareness. You've got to go out and find those people and introduce yourself to them. You can't just hope that they're going to be over on the right-hand quadrant there and hope that they're going to find you. Webcasts sit in here. So you're always reaching out and having something to invite people to. This is about access. Now the top left is about education. So in other words, you've got people out there who know you, they're following you on social media, they know who you are, but they don't know what they want. So they haven't quite, they might not realize they've got a problem. They might go, oh, we don't have a leadership problem, we have a turnover problem. And you're like, oh, well, if you look at it, you've actually got a leadership problem. It might look like an engagement problem or a retention problem, but you've actually got a leadership problem. So your job is to educate them. And so typically most experts will be educating them in social media up in this quadrant. So you've got, because you know them or they know you, but they don't know, they haven't got the insight into what their challenges are, and your job is to educate. You're still doing that with direct contact as well, but it's far more active, and these are people who have bought from you. Now, so with that said, the question is, and as I do with anybody, whenever anybody comes to me with one of the latest fads in social media or marketing campaigns or what they think, should I do this? My question is, have you mapped it against here? And so the first thing I do is map it against here. So if we look at pods, where do you think the pods sit? I'd love for you to just take a moment and have a guess. Do you think they sit in direct contact? Does it sit in educate? Could look like educate, maybe social media. Network and search, could it be asking around? Maybe. It's actually the awareness quadrant. And the reason why it's the awareness quadrant is because they don't know you, otherwise they'd be connected to you, and they don't know what they necessarily want. So in other words, they don't know that they want that service from you. So this quadrant, this bottom left-hand quadrant, is the awareness quadrant when it comes to pods. And there's a couple of issues with this. One is that the awareness quadrant, you have got to, if you want to get the return out of the quadrant, you have got to find a way to be able to get control of that quadrant and to be able to get leads. So to be able to get the email addresses. So that's the first thing, because otherwise hope is not your strategy. You don't just go, oh, well, I'll put this out and just hope that people contact me. That's not going to solve a problem. You've got sales targets. You've got to be more predictive than that. And you've got to say, well, I need X amount of meetings and I'm going to do X amount of sales because I get this amount of conversion. So you need to run your numbers against it. Hope is not a strategy. And when it comes to pods are in the awareness quadrant. So where you get control in this quadrant, let's say you're speaking at a conference, then you've got a way to be able to get leads. You've put cards on tables, you've put forms, you've got a burst SMS, opt-in, whatever it might be. But when it comes to a pod, is that you have got to have a way to make sure that you get every single one of those people from whoever's liking your stuff or who's being exposed to your stuff to see it. Now, the issue is that you don't know who is seeing it. So that's a real issue, and it can have an impact because it's lost time. There's an opportunity cost in this quadrant. In fact, the research tells us that only about 5% of your audience are ready to work with you in this quadrant. So even if we speak at a conference, if you speak at, you got 1,000 people at a conference, only about 5% of that audience are ready to speak with you. So if you're putting content up like this every day, there's a lot of work in there for a very minimal return. What you're better off to do, my advice, is spend your time over here. Is look at your list, look at your database, look at what the information is telling you. Have a look at your open rates, have a look at who's opening, because we know that people in this quadrant will spend on average 47% more than anybody else. So you've spent all the hard work. If you've been sending your newsletter out each week, if you've been adding value to this audience, they're so much closer to you and they're in your tribe. They're much tighter and they're in your 150s at least. 150s plus the next group out, which are the people on your list. When it takes 10 touch points for somebody to buy from you, and you already have these people's information, you know what their problems are, you've got information on how interested they are and what you have to say. You can even reach out to them, you can send them an email and say, I'd love to come and see you, would it be helpful if I come to see you? So there's the research tells us much higher return over in that top right hand quadrant, and that's a no-brainer, right? So this bottom left hand quadrant in the awareness quadrant, you always want to be doing activities in there. But for me, I spoke at a lot of conferences. I think I spoke at about 70 conferences before I worked out how to actually get about 80% of the room's details. I did a lot of legwork. I totally get how hard it is to be able to work out how to get leads in this quadrant. So I'm really passionate about helping people to not waste time, particularly experts who, when there's only one of you and you can go into exhaustion very quickly. Because I don't know about you, but I'm just guessing that, it's nice to be able to get a dopamine hit when people like your stuff and it's shared. And I get that, those moments are few and far between sometimes when you're on your own. However, the challenge there is that it becomes a bit addictive. And so we start to avoid selling. And I don't know if that's in your case, but it could be a procrastination strategy. It could be an avoidance strategy. And perhaps maybe you're avoiding doing the real work. I don't know. But what I would say is, if you're going to do it, there was a comment that I saw that somebody made who said, come and join us, it's fun. And I go, that's exactly what it is. It's fun. So it's not, if you're looking for a return, don't go there. My advice is stay in your direct contact. Or if you've done all these other things, if you've got your newsletter going out every week, if you've got your social media posts going up, if you're doing your sales calls, if you're doing a webcast every week, if you're reaching out to all your LinkedIn contacts and you're getting them on your list, you're sending them white papers, if you're doing all that stuff and you go, I'm really bored, I think that I'll join a pod, and I'm going to knock yourself out, go for your life. That might be fun. But don't, my advice to people is, do the work that really gets you the return, get focused on your numbers, and don't lose time on things that don't get a return. Because at the end of the day, we're a world-class brand. Everyone we work with is a world-class brand. And at the end of the day, does a world-class brand, are they in pods? Is Brené Brown in a pod? Is Seth Godin in a pod? No. So they focus on the work that matters. So do the work that matters, and focus on, if you're going to work with that awareness quadrant, make sure you are getting those leads. Otherwise you are losing time, and that's something we just don't have. I want you to be able to do the work that you love doing. I want you to work with the clients you love working with, and go care for them, because they have cared enough to work with you and to help you grow your practice. I hope that helps. I'd love to hear your comments and what your experience has been with pods.